Greetings. This is PTOR, or sometimes known as SanctumSanctorumComix. You might have followed me on Twitter. Maybe you've seen me in my blog, this blog right here. There you go. That's the URL. Whoa. Okay. But you probably know me as the owner and proprietor and collector of one of the world's largest Doctor Strange collections. A proud designation that I've had for, well, like I said, about 40 years. Until now, where I've met a couple of gentlemen. Well, I've known one for almost 15, 20 years now. No, easily 20 years. Yeah. Anyway, so I've got a couple of friends now who are also Doctor Strange collectors, whose collections are at the point where they rival my own. One guy maybe even surpassed it. We don't know because there's no way to catalog every single item that I have, or anybody. Or the question is, do you count every single trading card? Do you count every little doodad? Do you count multiple copies of the same comic? So that's kind of where it comes down to. But we all have certain things that we specialize in, and we're all very happy about it. But like I said, I've had the designation and the pleasure of being primarily the world's largest Doctor Strange collector for about 40 years. And that is because of the nature and the longevity of my collection. 40 some odd years, at least. I started in 1977, give or take, with Doctor Strange collecting, or at least comics in general, and Doctor Strange by 1979 was in full gear. By 1980, I was already, looking for rarities and back issues. But the fact that I considered myself to be a completist, meaning if it exists, I must have it. If Doctor Strange was in the background of a comic panel, or a floating head in the corner of a room, or pictured on a computer monitor in the background of a scene in a tiny little panel, sometimes even just mentioned, I had to have it. That was the extent of my collection, and it went worldwide. Things that were manufactured all over the world, I had to have them. And more often than not, more than one, I would need to get one to have mint in the collection and one to read or open and play with or wear if it was a toy or a garment. And that's what leads me to today. I am starting to divest myself of parts of my collection because it's just gotten to a point where it's impossible to be a completist in this day and age, where Disney, who now owns Marvel, is such a merchandising juggernaut that they manufacture so much stuff. Not only themselves, but they also sell the license to so many producers of merchandise all over the world. It has become untenable. For the most part, I was able to maintain and keep up, even past 2016, when Doctor Strange's first movie came out with Benedict Cumberbatch. The merchandise was pretty modest. There wasn't all that much of it because he was still considered to be a niche character, and they didn't expect him to be able to support that much of an industry. That changed. You had Infinity Gauntlet, you had Endgame, you had Multiverse of Madness, you had Spider-Man No Way Home. All of these things increased Doctor Strange's presence in the world and has made it to a point where so many people consider themselves to be Doctor Strange fans, and they're producing for the multitudes. Now I'm here in what is my virtual sanctum with the green screen behind me. Yeah, I know, it's a secret. You're not supposed to know that there's a green screen. There's a green screen behind me because the real Sanctum Sanctorum, my collector room, is unable to be filmed in. I've filmed a couple of videos in the past. You could probably find them on my YouTube channel with that background, where I actually have the window, but not the movie window. I have the comic window. which looks like it's made out of wood with other dimensions outside of the window. I made it myself. It hangs on the wall, and it looks just like the comic version. I prefer that over the movie version. The movie version is nice, but it's an extraneous detail. The little grid work is unnecessary. I understand that it's, you know, helpful to maintain that the glass is protected and kept in place because of those little pieces of framework, but I like the wood one from the comics without all the extra detail. So I would be filming there, but it's impossible to because it's too filled with stuff. There's just too much stuff there. And so here I am. To help reduce the amount of stuff, I am slowly getting rid of some things. And by getting rid of, I mean giving away, or in this case, selling some items that are really cool. Like in this particular case, it's a one-of-a-kind item. No other item like this exists in the world. I'll explain. It is a product sample. Now, I've got other things that are product samples. I've got things that are product prototypes. I've got things that were limited editions. I've got stuff that was promotional material. So even then, if it was proliferated in abundance, you tended to throw that stuff away because it's promotional material. Why would you keep it? Because I'm a completist. That's why. So I have everything. I've got memos from Marvel Comics themselves. I've got in-office memos. I've got stuff like that. If it existed, I needed to have it. And this particular item was one that was supposed to be mass-produced, like comics, like action figures, like statues, of varying degrees of mass production, but it was supposed to be mass-produced. A lot of times there would be product lines that I would have supported early on, even before a Doctor Strange version existed, because I had wanted there to be a Doctor Strange version of that particular product. So I would bought some of the early, samples. So that way the company would go, oh, we've got sales. So we'll keep going. And they'll be able to maintain long enough to make a Doctor Strange version of it. That doesn't always work. Even if the item gets printed in a catalog, and this particular item is in a catalog, which I will show you in a minute, they don't always make it to market. And in this particular case, product samples were made. They were probably shown to Marvel, and for whatever reason, maybe they lost the Marvel license, this particular company. Maybe the product line just died because of a lack of interest. Who knows? The reason is it never made it to market. And if it did, it was a very small niche market. I have spoken with some people over the years who claim to have seen these things. Oh, I was at a store and I saw it. Or I know somebody who has one. Or I spoke to somebody actually fairly recently when I was auctioning this item off. And he says, no, I'm no longer in the marketplace. I bought one from a collector. I said, that's fantastic. I've never seen any other one like it. No one's ever seen another one like it. Could you please send me a photo? Just to make sure that, the end product looks the same as the product sample. No changes were made. If there's any differentiation, that would be awesome. That means I'd have to hunt down the differentiation and own that too. No photo came. No reply came. As far as I know, it's one of those cases of he said, she said, because his sister's monkey's uncle's brother's dog knows a guy. Anyway, long story short, back in 2009, I blogged about this particular item on my blog. Remember the blog? Remember the blog? Let me show you that one more time. And the Sanctum Sanctorum. That's my blog. Okay. Which I haven't written about in years. Instead, I spend most of my time tweeting because it's quicker and easier, and I've got no time to write these lengthy. If you ever go to the blog and read any of my stuff, hopefully it's well written, but it's also long. You need to pack a lunch. You need to be someone who enjoys reading and getting to know all the nitty-gritty of something. I divulge information that you probably don't need to know, but I do. Any bits and bobs of nuance and information that I happen to know from 40 some odd years of collecting, I impart. So I would get people contacting me about this particular item, And they're like, oh my God, where did you see that? Where did you find it? How much did you spend? Can I buy it from you? Can I trade you? And my answer was always, I found it. I lucked into it because all I used to do was constantly search the internet, search trade magazines. And before there was eBay, I would make calls, phone calls, cold calls, contact comic shops, go to comic conventions, knock on doors, so to speak. I met a guy at a convention who claimed he had an item that I really needed. I met him at his house, went alone with him into his basement and bought the item from him. I went in a back alley off of the George Washington Bridge when I was driving to New York to go to work one day. And this was pre-dawn, because I had to get to work early. And I made an arrangement to meet with a guy on the New Jersey side, just before the George Washington Bridge, in a weird back alley to purchase an item. And I gave him the cash and he gave me the item and off we went. And neither one of us was killed, which is nice. But that said, those were the pre-internet days and even post-internet days. You'd meet people, you'd look for things. So I found this hat. It's a hat. I gave it away. So I found this hat and I posted it on my blog saying it's one of a kind. It's a product sample and none of them ever existed because I bought an early one. And I'm going to show you in a moment. So this is the catalog. The name of the company is American Needle. They had the Marvel license to manufacture these hats, which featured a head, a side shot, and a logo of various characters. Now, the Doctor Doom one was one of the first waves, if not the first wave. And I bought that one to help, propagate the line. Say, you know what, I'll buy this. I collect Doctor Doom stuff. I like Doctor Doom. And then when a Doctor Strange ones come, I'll have a Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange one. And that never happened. Needless to say, the Doom one is fairly rare. It's uncommon, I guess the term would be. I bought one. The one that I bought, I wore to death to the point where it's, I would need to really get it custom cleaned. But then I wound up buying a brand new one with the tag still attached. So I've got that one in my collection. But I had waited to see if there would ever be, and some of these are common and some of these are rare and some of these are whatever, but I waited to see if there would ever be a Doctor Strange one. And here it is in the catalog. You got his head. You've got his side view. Wait a minute. Side view. And the logo. And supposedly it was going to go to market. And as I said, some people claim that they've seen them. Some people claim that they have them, but no one has ever produced it. So this is it. It's in a protective case. That's the front. That's the side. And the front is based on almost nothing. It's probably a knockoff of a drawing from his head. The Paul Smith full body shot from Marvel Handbook of the official handbook of the Marvel Universe. There you go, from 1982. Has a similar looking head, but that's not Paul Smith. This is really bad. This looks like it's based off of like a Jeff Isherwood kind of a drawing or one of those guys. But the side view is actually taken from a comic book cover. I believe it's Doctor Strange 25 or 26 from the Sorcerer Supreme line. I'll take it out of the plastic so there's less glare. And the logo, which is now being seen through because of the green screen. The logo was taken from the 1969 Doctor Strange series, his first series, but it was also reused in the 1990s Sorcerer Supreme run. This was the second logo they used. They had an initial logo that was designed that was taken from the Strange Tales Volume 2, carried over into the beginning of Sorcerer Supreme, and then when writer Roy Thomas took over, he brought this logo with him because it's the same logo as the 1969 run that he was the writer for then. So he had an emotional attachment to it and brought it over. So this is the look. Now there's an important feature to this that you can only see when it's out of the case. Now it's okay. So here we go without the glare. is the head. Nothing on this side. Here is the body on this side. And here is the logo on that side. But the important bit is this. It says sample stamped on the bottom of the brim. And that's it. The inside is perfect. It is mint. It is impeccably clean. I have never worn it. If I did wear it when I first bought it, it was like for all of a second going, ooh, look at this. I took it off immediately. So it's never been really worn. It's never been used. It's still stiff and perfect and great. And it is going away. Now, like I said, I had been contacted over the years by a bunch of people. Some more serious than others, some real serious collectors, some collectors of Dr. Strange, some collectors of American Needle. And they would either leave a reply on my blog in the comments section, or they would contact me through Twitter, or they'd do any kind of thing, find my email address, which is listed in the blog. And so they would contact me over the years saying, hey, can I get this? Can I buy it? Can I trade you? I've always said no. I've turned down rather impressive offers. And I've always said no, because I prefer to keep it as a completist, as somebody who needs to have one of everything, at least one of everything, sometimes more than one to keep, one to open, one to use, one to have, but always something to keep in the collection. As even this, I'm wearing this right now, hang on. This is a lovely item. It's got the Sanctum Sanctorum window logo on the front. Got some magic shield stuff in the back. Right, you can see that? Could you see it? So I got two of these. One to wear, which I do. I walk out in public with this because that's how I roll. And I even wear, I've got other hats. This is one of a few that I've got from when the Doctor Strange movie was filmed. These were given out to cast and crew. So this is from when they were filming in Nepal. So I'll walk around wearing that. I've got more than one. This one I got from a guy who was probably a film crew. It's got a crease in it because he probably kept it folded up and jammed in his pocket while he was on location. So I was able to get it from him for a steal. And I don't mind wearing it because it's already worn. It's already used. It's lived in. I've got a mint one in a plastic case like this. I've got ones from other locations that they filmed. I've got the new one from the Multiverse of Madness. That's what I do. I'm a completist. I have to. It's this sickness where I had to have it. I have to complete the collection. And I've come to the point where I realize it's impossible. It is impossible to complete my collection because they just keep making more stuff. And I can't afford to keep buying it. And I don't have enough room to store it, which is why I'm, again, here in this virtual sanctum as opposed to my regular. So that's where I am, divesting myself of certain items because the person who won this, now the people who were competing and contacting me over the years were a unique mix of Doctor Strange fans and American Needle collectors. And when I contacted them all and had the private auction, it came down to a final three. One guy was a Doctor Strange collector. He was also an American Needle collector. One guy was just a Doctor Strange collector, and another guy was just an American Needle collector. Eventually came down to the last two. One was purely a Doctor Strange collector, and the other guy was purely an American Needle collector. And the American Needle collector won. So it's leaving my collection, a Doctor Strange collection, where it had the designation of being a unique Doctor Strange item that was a hat. And it's going to a hat collection where it's a unique hat that's a Doctor Strange item. right? That's it. So it's got a two-sidedness to its existence. For me, it was a Doctor Strange hat. Just happened to be a hat, a rare hat, a one-of-a-kind hat, a feather in my cap hat, but a hat. One of many sub-genres of collectible item. For this collector, it's a hat. He collects hats. He collects American Needle hats. It just happens to be the hat, the Doctor Strange hat, the rarest of them all hat. As far as I've been able to tell, it's the mother of hats for this American Needle brand. If you're an American Needle collector and you have this catalog and you're like, oh, I'm flipping through it and using it as a checklist and a shopping list, and you get to all these rare ones, and some of them are rare, but they're able to be found. Not that guy, as far as I know. As far as I can tell, very sadly, never made it to market because I really wanted one. I would love to have been able to wear one. Can't wear this. It's a one of a kind. And so it sat for over 20 years. I've had this thing for over 20 years. I found it online somewhere and kept it mint. Initially, before I had this hat case, it was kept in a, they've got comic bags. They're transparent comic bags that you put comics in. They look like this. Right? So this particular catalog goes into this comic bag. But I needed a bigger one. So they make ones for magazines and they make ones for these things called treasuries. The treasuries are rather large. And so I put it in either a magazine bag or a treasury bag because it was transparent. You can see in it. And I had kind of a comic book backing board that was acid free inside of it to keep it stiff and protected. But then I discovered that they had these hat protectors. I'm like, give me those. So I bought that. And it's been in a row. I've got a whole bunch of hats on a display with, set up to look at. But they're up high. I can't really see them. And it's just time. It's time for it to go. It's time for it to see a new home. It's time for it to exist in someone else's collection, somebody who has that same drive that I did, who has that same, need to complete them. He's only been collecting American Needle hats for about a year or so, according to him. And now he's got the motherlode. That's really kind of cool. I can remember when I was just starting off. And it's like, finding rare stuff. And people are like, wow, how did you find that? There's a feeling as a collector that, to have something that nobody else has, or even if they do, it's a rarity. It's somehow off, a variant now. Now they've got variants. But I'm happy that I've had it. I'm proud that I've had it for this long. And I'm happy that it's going to get another life with somebody else. And then they'll have it for a long time and maybe pass it on. It's cool. It's cool. That all things should do this. That's how you preserve them. And it always struck me as odd as a collector, as a Doctor Strange reader, when he would give away valuable and rare artifacts to other heroes. And you take this, keep this to yourself and use it. It will help protect you. I'm going, you don't give that away. You keep that in the sanctum. You keep the books and the tomes and the medallions and the wands, and you keep all that stuff. You are the Sorcerer Supreme. You need to hold that stuff to protect it, to keep it all in one place. Because that's my collector's mindset. Sometimes it's best to let things leave, to let things go into somebody else's collection, because they're more likely to be in tune with it, to collect it, to protect it. Maybe it has a vibration, a frequency that's more in tune to them. That's what I'm telling myself now, because my mindset is still everything must be kept. But that's not the case. I'm starting to let things go. I'm going to start selling things. You're going to be seeing a few more videos like this, quieter, quicker, more to the point, a little more punchy, maybe scripted, not quite TikTok, but like that, showcasing stuff that I'm going to be selling. I'll have to sell this too. This is fairly rare. This is hard to come by, this catalog. The guy who has bought this hat already has the catalog, so I couldn't really, upsell him with that. But it'll go. I have other things that will go. I've got a lot of rare items that will go, but it's going to take a long time. So it gives me a secondary hobby. The blog started as a means to showcase items that I had and that I was getting. That became also a place that I would impart knowledge of stupid things that I knew about Doctor Strange. And it also transformed into my Twitter profile, which is quicker. It's fast. It's easy. It's 140 characters. And that's it. I did it. Microblogging is what they call it. Microblogging on Twitter, showing what I was getting. Now it's maybe Instagram videos. I don't know. It'll all change. But that's good. Change is good. All right. So that's me signing off. May the Vishanti watch over thee. And look forward to, seeing you again in the future. Thank you for your patience dealing with my clogged nose and my messy hair and the fact that I'm rambling like a crazy person. But that's okay. Have a good day.